The dreamer's paradox. What if life is a shared dream? What if everything you see, the sky, the ground beneath your feet, the people around you, were not quite real? What if every color, every face, every breath of wind was merely the echo of a deeper, hidden mind? And what if that mind was not yours alone, but ours? Somewhere between sleep and waking, between the neurons firing in your brain and the ancient chants of forgotten mystics, lies a question that has haunted humanity for millennia. Are we dreaming this life together? You open your eyes in the morning, and the world assembles around you like a play resetting for the next act. The body stretches, the thoughts begin, the story resumes. But who exactly is the narrator? The ancient Hindus called it Maya, the illusion, a veil of reality that hides the deeper truth beneath. And their sacred texts, life was not something to be lived, but something to be awakened from. And in a distant forest, under the shadow of a fig tree, a prince named Siddhartha sat still for 7 days. When he rose, he spoke of the world as a dream of form, constantly shifting, constantly deceiving. His awakening, what we now call enlightenment, was not to a new world, but to the illusion of the old. But what if this wasn't only metaphor? Modern neuroscience has begun to whisper similar truths, not through prayer beads, but through brain scans and fMRI machines. Scientists now tell us that everything we experience, even the feeling of being a self, is a construction of the brain. That the external world as we know it is filtered, decoded, and assembled in real time. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as your brain tells you it is. Photons don't have color. Sound waves don't make sound. These are qualities assigned, dreamed by the mind. Red is not a property of the apple. It is the story your neurons tell when struck by a particular wavelength of light. What you call reality is in fact a hallucination you agree upon. And if that's true, then what is real? In 1999, neuroscientist Francisco Varela proposed a radical idea. He called it neurophenomenology, the merging of first-person experience with third-person science. Rather than rejecting subjective experience as invalid, he believed it was the key to unlocking the mysteries of consciousness. His theory echoed something even older, the Tibetan dream yogis, who spent lifetimes training themselves to awaken within dreams, to move through the illusory world with clarity and agency. They believed that waking life and dream life were mirrors, one no more real than the other. This idea now finds a strange ally in the field of predictive coding, a new model of the brain gaining traction in cognitive science. According to this model, the brain is not a passive receiver of the world, but an active predictor, constantly generating simulations, forecasts, guesses, dreams. You are not experiencing reality. You are dreaming predictions. And only when the dream doesn't match the incoming signals do you adjust your model. Even then, it's often too late. The dream is already stitched. Consider this. When you look at another person, you don't truly see them. You see an avatar your mind generates, built from past memories, social constructs, cultural expectations. Their face is a mask of your making. Their voice, a translation. And this is where the paradox deepens. if we're all trapped inside our personal projections? How do we meet? How is it that when we cry, others cry with us? When we laugh, others feel joy? How can there be shared meaning, shared beauty, shared love, if all is internal?
The answer may lie in a field most wouldn't expect: quantum physics. At the smallest scales of existence, reality doesn't behave like a machine. It behaves like a possibility. Electrons do not have fixed positions. Light is both wave and particle. And most baffling of all, the act of observation itself changes the outcome. The infamous double-slit experiment revealed that when unobserved, particles behave like waves: diffuse, spread out, probabilistic. But once someone looks, they collapse into certainty, into matter, into fact. In other words, consciousness doesn't observe reality. It participates in creating it. The observer is the artist, and the canvas? Everything. Now imagine billions of observers dreaming together, each of us collapsing the quantum wave function in slightly different ways, each of us co-authoring a shared hallucination we call the world. And within that shared space, we agree upon certain rules. Time flows forward, gravity pulls downward, fire burns. But agreement doesn't mean truth. It means synchrony, collective dreaming. Could this explain the anomalies? The stranger who knew what you were thinking, the déjà vu that shook you to your core, the uncanny feeling that you've lived this moment before or that it was never quite real to begin with. These glitches in the matrix, as some call them, may be the fingerprints of a dream imperfectly shared. And what then is the self? If your thoughts are shaped by language, and language is shaped by culture, and culture is shaped by collective memory, where do you begin? Where do I end? Neuroscientists like Anil Seth argue that the self is not a thing, but a process, a controlled hallucination generated by the brain to make sense of its body and the world. Like a character in a story, it feels real, but it's always shifting. In this view, the I is not a noun, it's a verb. This resonates uncannily with the ancient Taoist sages, who taught that identity is fluid, like water, that to grasp at a fixed self is to miss the point. You are not the wave. You are the ocean, pretending to be a wave, just for a while. Even in the womb, the developing brain begins to simulate, to dream, long before it sees the light of day. By the time you're born, you're already running a virtual reality so complete that the outside world must fit into you, not the other way around. Which brings us to perhaps the most haunting question of all. If life is a dream, who is dreaming it? The mystics of every tradition, from Rumi to Ramana Maharshi, speak of a universal dreamer, an infinite awareness dreaming all things into existence. Not God in the traditional sense, not a person, but pure consciousness playing with form, forgetting itself to experience the joy of remembering. Could that dreamer be us? Not you, not me, but the space in which both exist. The silence between thoughts. The awareness behind your eyes, right now, listening to these words not as information, but as a memory being reawakened. There are no final answers here, only deeper questions. But perhaps that is the dream's true purpose, not to resolve, but to reveal. Not to define, but to dissolve. And as you listen, as your breath slows, you might begin to feel it. That strange familiarity. the edges of the world softening, the boundaries of self dissolving, as if waking from a very long dream. Or, perhaps, just perhaps, remembering that you were never asleep at all.
So, if life is a dream, and we are the dreamers, together, then every moment becomes sacred. Every encounter, a message from the deeper self. Every breath, a ripple in the field of shared awareness. We are not trapped in illusion, we are playing within it. And maybe that's the paradox. To awaken not by escaping the dream, but by learning to dream it consciously. To realize that behind every face is the same presence. That the universe is not something we are in, it is something we are being. So tonight, as you fall asleep, ask yourself, who dreams when the dreamer no longer sleeps? And when the morning comes, who wakes? You are the question and the answer. Dream wisely.